Okay, so I think we're ready to get started. I want to thank everybody for being here today to talk about some important measures that I'll be proposing to the City Council starting in the next couple of weeks. I'll start working with the City Manager, the Chief of Police, our police union representatives, and other stakeholders on these critically important measures around police reform in our community. First, I want to start by saying there's been a lot of talk out in our community regarding some incidents. First, I'll start by acknowledging that in the last week of the holiday season of December 25th, we did lose a resident in police custody. His name is Angelo Pinto. I have visited with the family, and I offered my condolences and certainly my prayers. I don't know all the details. All of the details yet remain to be seen, as there is an active investigation by the DA's office currently. So that's all I'll have to say for now. In addition to that, we did experience a shooting here in Antioch by a Stockton resident. A firefighter and a paramedic were both shot, non-threatening life injuries. They went to the hospital. They have been released. I did hear from the chief of the fire department that both individuals are now safe at their homes, and that they appreciate all of the hard work by our first responders and our police officers who responded to the call. And I know every resident in the city of Antioch also appreciates and respects the work that they did this past weekend. In addition to that, I just want to let folks know that in my hour and a half conversation with the chief last night regarding this and other matters, he did inform me that there is an 11-year-old daughter of the suspect is still missing, along with their mother. And so, of course, this will be important as we'll need the public's eyes and ears ensuring that they find these individuals in an expeditious manner. I will say that community cameras in our community did help in identifying the vehicle, and that's how APD was able to find them in such an expeditious manner. So again, we appreciate all of their hard work. That being said, we're here to talk about an important subject, and that's police reform. Everybody knows that I have not been shy about the importance of reform, not only locally but globally. And this is a conversation that started post George Floyd. And frankly, since the murder of George Floyd, there has, as I said, a national and global awakening that has made the streets of our nation the epicenter of expression, frustration, and hope, including right here in Antioch. Nationally, the awakening made its way to the halls of Congress, made its way to state legislatures throughout our country, and made its way to many, many local jurisdictions nationally and here in our state. I'm saddened to say that there's one notable exception in the real conversation around reform, and that's Antioch. Before I continue, I want to acknowledge Vice Mayor Monica Wilson, who will be speaking later. We also have Ron Johnson, who has been a critical advisor on our police reform efforts, as he's chairing our transition team related to police reform. So he and I will be meeting with our chief and others soon. Quite frankly, if our police department is going to do the same thing 5, 10, 20 years from now, we have all failed as a city because we did not evolve with the times, including our changing demographics. Luckily, the voters have more foresight than those who seek to divide us based on pro and anti-law enforcement political rhetoric. That's all it is. Political rhetoric serves to divide our community, and as your leader, I refuse to fall victim of that nonsense. We're not allowed to dictate how we're going to pursue police reform in this community. Voters recognize that reform is actually synonymous with progress, improvement, betterment, refinement, and adaptation. In that spirit, today I'm announcing a series of police reform measures that I will be proposing as the major first step towards building a police department that every segment of our community can trust. If looked at objectively, I am seeking to implement common sense solutions, responsible police reforms that I campaigned on, that will provide our police department with the necessary tools to do their job, that will allow our community to feel safe, respected, equally will allow for officers to be seen as public servants and not in occupying force by every resident in our community. I firmly believe that our police officers and public servants who enter this very difficult vocation have a very difficult job to do. They put their lives at risk daily. And however, it cannot be ignored that there are major structural problems in law enforcement nationally. When the very members of our community, or the very members of the community that they seek to protect, sometimes feel that they're afraid of our law. So until then, we have a lot of work to do. Conceptually, what I'm proposing today are reform measures that are really a framework to begin the process for us as policymakers to get our work done. The first area that I will be focused on, or will be proposing, is of course around mental health, which has to be the focal point of our reforms, not just limited to how law enforcement responds to mental health calls, but the actual mental health and wellness of our law enforcement personnel. Therefore, we'll seek to have a mental health crisis response team here in Antioch. We would like to require that our police officers and our dispatch workers have an annual mental health assessment to ensure that our officers are, to ensure that the well-being of our officers is constantly monitored, as well as our dispatch workers. They have a hard job to do, dispatch workers. And so recently in California, we reclassified dispatch workers as first responders, and rightfully so, because they have a difficult job to do. So to talk more about this mental health crisis response team, I'll hand it over to Vice Mayor Monica Wilson, who has been doing tremendous work in this area as it relates to our city.